Hi, this is no ordinary voice of spiritual ventriloquism. You are listening to the dummy himself. Gurkha Havana Legend, Limitada. Nice stick for those who habla. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to one of the most important young men that has ever been in my life. Okay, his name's Elias, and he was a brother who lived with me for many years. A brilliant mind, a brilliant young man who I've had. I haven't really had any influence on his, what do you say, his scholarship and his adeptness to study and to ferret out and to come to conclusions. And I really didn't have that. That was all, it came out of his own spirit, and it was his own work and labor and effort that he achieved those things. Now, I will take a little bit of credit for what some would view as poisoning his well as a youth. I'll take credit for that. And I always encouraged him to make up his own mind, figure out things for himself, and live with his own thoughts, as I have anyone, okay? And, you know, we were having a conversation the other night, and it was really a good conversation. I always am so blessed by this young man's insight. And he told me, he said, you know, he says, the main thing, the problem we have today in the religious and ecclesiastical realm is that there's this self-assumed authority that people take, okay, and that people get. And I'm going to tell you, he's hitting on a very good point, okay? And that is, and he asked this question: who gave you the authority to determine what's what? Who gave you the authority? Who personally gave you the authority on a one-on-one, mano-a-mano, okay? I'm not talking about you got goosebumps on your arm and you had a nice thought of grandiosity and stuff like that, and you know, some feigned form of that you felt like you were being called or being led to be a pastor or anything else for that matter, bishop, deacon, whatever, okay? Who gave you the authority to make the determinations that you make on doctrine, telling people what to do, why they should follow you, and all that? Who gave you the authority for that? And what you're going to find out is all you have is the claims of other men saying they have that authority. I'm not talking about our own personal little niche under the religious sun, so to speak. What I'm talking about is it's replete throughout religion in general, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Black Hebrew Israelites, whether it is what do you say, you know, any form of Protestant Christianity. Authority, who gave it to you? And to be perfectly honest with you, he brought up the fact, and he rose the issue of the Catholics. Now, you know, how you going to deal with certain issues like the Trinity or apostolic oneness or Jesus only or all that? Where does that come from? Who gave them the authority? And how long has those systems been around how long and how consistent has your authority and doctrine really been applied? Because all I've ever witnessed in 25 years is a lot of grifting, okay? Where you'll say something and then you'll separate that theological doctrinal screw up with time and space, and by eliminating those that are around you, or making them irrelevant or whatever, where your voice is the only narrative in town, it's the only story. It's all one directional, unidirectional. Okay. So, I mean, just take apostolics, for example, which, a lot of people think that, Straightway Truth Ministry is and always has been a Torah-based ministry, and they've always kept the law of Moses. It's bullshit. It really is. It's bullshit. I can tell you the truth. Don't even try to challenge me on this one, okay? Don't try it, okay? And as a matter of fact, I really would like to do a StreamYard live or something like that with Elias, so that you all can listen to a young man who is endued with knowledge, okay? Who knows what he's talking about, okay? As a matter of fact, he reminds me of me. Elias. What a fine young man. Some of you know him. A lot of you know him. Some of you heard of him. But the report's always been the same about that young man. That he's a force to be reckoned with. And you better be on your A game, because you're going to get your clock cleaned by that young man. No doubt. No doubt. I know him. So, apostolics, pretty much been around 60 years-ish, maybe 70 years, okay? Mormons, been around 100 years, okay? Dutch Reformation, maybe been around a couple hundred years, okay? At least in the U.S. In Europe, maybe somewhat longer, okay? All right. 300-400 years, maybe go all the way back to the time of Luther. Hell, I don't know. I hadn't looked it up. I'm probably not far off. So all of these 25,000 Christian organizations and cults, okay, and offshoots of Christian organizations and cults have been around, let's say, maximum 300-400 years, okay? However, when you go look at two organizations in religion, that is classical Judaism in its modern context, okay, we'll say from the 3rd century on, okay, with roots going back into the 1st century. This is why I think that there's more skin in the game here, okay, and Catholicism, okay. Let's forget the fact that they have errors. Who doesn't? I mean, 25 years of my experience with a religious organization has been a little riddled with error and grifting and cover-ups and, redirectional narratives and stuff being applied because they haven't been able to hold their theological shit together for any length of time. They always change, like the Mormons, continuing revelation, okay? They did it on polygamy. They did it on civil rights, statehood, all that stuff. They redirected. They redirected with other things in modern times as well, okay? So nobody stays true to their narrative when their narrative is no longer politically convenient, okay? And you're going to find that out to be true in the future. You watch. You watch. So, Judaism and Catholicism. Catholicism has consistently applied the same doctrine with maybe variations of whether priests can marry anymore or not, a couple small exceptions, okay? And I think it's riddled with error. I mean, they are riddled with error. The whole construct is riddled with errors, okay? But the answer to that is not an Israelite bandage. You got to be joking. All you're doing is sealing off oxygen from an infectious wound. And I'm not ragging on the Catholics, because at least the Catholics have, from my experience, the Catholics probably are the most free-minded and tolerant people that there are on the face of the earth. Okay? Can't say that for the aggressive tribal people that are living in Fantasy Island and things like that. I can't say that about them, though they grift too. So anyway, but yes, they've had an established priestly order. They've had an established doctrine. They've had an established canon that has remained consistent and static for at least 1,000 years. Okay? Council of Trent, Council of Nicaea, maybe some, so that's when the developmental state of the canon and the doctrine and the theology and the authority was established back then. So they have a track record. You don't. You don't have a track record. Most of the time, you don't even know what the hell you're talking about, let alone have a track record. Okay? So I got to give kudos to the Catholics for hanging in there, man. I really do. And I have to give kudos to the Orthodox and Reformed Jews, as well. They have pretty much remained consistent in their doctrines for at least 1,000 years or more. 1300 or 300 CE on, they've been, right, we're at 2000. No, we're talking more than that. We're talking like 1,600 years, okay? I'm not being accurate in that. So anyway, how do you defend your doctrine against someone who got appointed to be a priest or a bishop or a cardinal or a rabbi or a a teacher, a Talmudim who has been accepted to teach in the Jewish realm? How do you argue against that? Where do you get your authority? Who gave you that authority? I know it was, divine revelation. You were told in your spirit. So then you spend the rest of your life trying to convince people that God's talking to you. Well, if that's the case, I really have to ask for some ID, because he picked some stupid fucking people to lead his people. Literally, imbeciles, arrogant, haughty, proud, stiff-necked people, stupid people to lead his sheep off to the processor or wherever they end up. Yep, sure does. So I have to ask for some ID, okay? I really do. You really should be careful about laying the claims of your authority at the doorstep of somebody you have never seen nor heard, okay? Ever. I can claim I've heard from God too, and I believe I have. But I don't use that as a litmus test to get other people in line and to toe the line and to follow me. Okay? Jesus didn't even do that. He let the works testify of him. And they were pretty genuine too, So that's going to be a good thing to discuss Most people derive their authority because they have some gas that comes in their mind that tells them that they're the chosen one. Bullshit. and I'll just tell y'all that right now. Bullshit. Okay? And it's very convenient for these individuals to be able to come out, and it's very convenient for them to be able to claim that they're having direct communion with the Most High, or they might be a little bit more honest that their belief and determination is of equal trade value, and then they just gather a bunch of people together and they start the money mill or whatever. Okay. Yeah. Where do you get your authority, buddy? Come on. I don't want to hear it. I know people personally that for years claimed that they were ordained, but there's no ordination papers, there's no schooling, there's no education, none of that. They want to say, well, I'm the same as Isaiah, who was chosen out of the dirt in Israel way back when to be a prophet like Jeremiah unto the nations, and and like Moses to go and set my people free. God damn it, at least fucking Moses had a pedigree. At least he had a genealogy. At least Moses was brought up and schooled in the house of Pharaoh and had some type of, ability to substantiate his claims, because everybody knew where Moses came from. Can't say that about people today. We don't know where the hell they came from. Every time the economy starts to go down, the pastors and the churches applying for tax-exempt foundations, 501, 508, and all of that, they come and they begin to find an easier way to make a living. And that's true. Paul, at least, he claims he was a tent maker. There are people who say he was a fictitious character. I'd rather not choose to believe that. I don't know. I wasn't there. Neither were you. Okay. But the thing of it is at least he had a job for years after he supposedly got knocked on his ass, off from the back of the ass, on his way to Damascus. Okay. He actually worked with his own hands. And he didn't defraud any of his people, too, by the way. He didn't take money of people to enrich himself. He robbed other churches for some people who were a pain in the ass, the Corinthians, okay? He did that, but he didn't self-amend himself and live large at the expense of other people. As a matter of fact, ultimately, for what he was supposed to have went through, ended up giving up his life for it. He was martyred like the rest of them. Did you ever notice only 2 prophets never were martyred? Who were they? Do you know? It was Jeremiah, okay? That was the main one. I'll let you find out who the other one was. Moses. He just died of old age. Okay? Everybody else suffered something. Okay? Sawn asunder, peeled alive, boiled in hot oil, according to the Fox's Book of Martyrs and things like that. Okay? Burnt at the stake. I see people burning a lot of steaks because they think that's healthier than medium rare or rare. I see a lot of people suffering going out to Cracker Barrel and bitching about the gay people But they can't stay out of those places. They can't stay away from them. They go to places where gay people concentrate themselves, and that's okay, you know. But then they want to come back and complain to the brethren about how terrible the situation is out there, and you got to be careful because this and that, and but you're the strong one sitting in the idol's temple, aren't you? You're a joke. Anyway, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop with that video. Who gives you the authority that you claim? Who did it? Which bishop? Which pastor? Which prophet? When did God himself teleport, spiritually or otherwise, and have a direct face-to-face, one-on-one with you? It never happened. I know pastors that have had conversations with demons and use that to support them. These were the same pastors that said, this was the same pastor that used to say that he used to go to Centennial Park in Nashville and beat up on effeminate men. He never did that. It was his brother that did that. It was his brother and his crew that did that. It wasn't him. He just appropriated his brother's stories because it fit his narrative and gave him substance out of the emptiness of his experience as a means of, anything to make himself look like he's an authority when he's not, and doesn't have the authority because none of it was ever given to him by any other established authority under the sun or over the sun ever. Something to you to think about. Elias, you just keep on keeping on, brother. Take care. Have a good day. Shalom.